Okay, welcome to Real Estate Talk NYC. This is Phil.
This is
and
Joe.
We're basically wanting to introduce you and enlighten you in regards to landlord and tenancy and the whereabouts of New York City housing and basically being a landlord in New York City. Joe?
Yeah, so my name is Joe, and basically my story is that my parents had the properties from 1978. They didn't speak the language. They came from Italy, and they learned as they went. You know, they would hire somebody and they would copy down their how they fix something, like a plumber or a painter, and they never rehired the person twice. They would always hire the person once, copy what they did, and then they did it themselves. Or if they tried to do it, I mean, it didn't come out pretty, but they figured it out, and then the next time they got better at it. Tons of mistakes, but it's okay. Imagine, doesn't speak the language, bought themselves a property, all partnered up like 5 people, and don't know what they're doing, and succeeded. So if you're a new homeowner, you're a new landlord, don't give up, because there's times where it can get really hard, especially if a tenant is not paying. But, basically back to my story, that's where I'm at. I grew up in it, in the industry, and I was around it all the time. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. And I actually lived in the building that my parents owned. And it was a nice, gratifying feeling to, run the business. So that's why I'm here now after 30 years myself. I mean, 9 years old painting and whatnot. So, you introduce yourself?
Okay. I have a similar story. I did the same thing. My parents, came from Italy, needing ends meet, having to do what needed to be processed with regards to tenancies. Me as a young kid, I had to learn quick, like many other children that are first born. You basically have to learn quick because of the fact that you're helping your immigrant parents with all this extra stuff that basically, like it's new to you. Just imagine you're a little kid trying to figure out what it is that you're understanding as to reading all these papers with violations and what have you, all these different codes, zonings. What does a little kid know about these things? Because unfortunately, there's a lot of unscrupulous people that say they want to help, but they steer you in the wrong direction. So if it's not for you, to basically educate yourself and have an understanding as to what it is needed in order to go forward. And that's the reason why we're developing the site, because basically we would like to make you aware in regards to the fact of what like landlords go through, what tenants go through, the hardship of going through the housing court and going forward from there, like how it ends up. Sometimes it's positive, in a positive note for both. And sometimes, unfortunately, the tenant has to leave. Or majority of times, today, in today's market, the landlord is forced to sell their property because they can't afford it, because they have people squatting there for free and they don't care.
Well, and that's why we're here, to give you guys insight before you go ahead and sell the property, when you probably could have saved it, because there's a bully tenant pushing you guys out because of the inexperience or the intimidation. So, we have gone through the grinder. We've been down there and back up again. We've been to court. We've had any story you can imagine. We'll talk about the stories later on, but we're here. What we want to accomplish is, we want to help you guys and give you guys the shortcuts as best as we can, so that you guys can don't have to take the long road, because we're in New York City, and the city is a little tough with helping on the phone, because they get so many calls, because we're like the #1 place for tenants, and they don't really give a lot of information. They don't have a lot of patience, so it's tough. I go to HPD a lot with Phil, and you see the struggle that they go through to try to understand the landlords, to try to understand what they need to do next. And it's heartbreaking. That's why I told Phil, I said, I think it's time for us to make a YouTube page to give you guys guidance. Instead of you guys going the long version and the stressed out version and the sleepless nights, we hope that you can get information from us that will help you, serve you better in understanding what to do next,
And to come out with a positive outcome for both landlord and tenants. Basically, unfortunately, there are a lot of things where if you go to housing court, they do favor the tenant 90% over the landlord. They say that they want to help the landlord for whatever reason, but in reality, people that go in and out of housing court, they do understand that they favor the tenant all the way around.
With talking to tenants, I mean, me and Phil have been talking to tenants for 30 years. And there's a certain kind of way to talk. Just like in any other business, there's a certain kind of way to talk to tenants. You have to be firm. You can be friendly, but you have to be firm. And understand that tenants are not your buddies. And, when you make yourself really crazy available to tenants, they will call you every 5 minutes about something. So you have to let them know that, you're there, but you're not on speed dial where, 2 in the morning. We've gotten calls at 2 in the morning, where at midnight. And I have to let the person know, hey, I'm not just a machine. I'm a human being that has a life that has to go to sleep at night and wake up and do early morning things. So, if this could wait to the next morning to let me know, please let me know. It's okay to let the tenant know that, they kind of crossed the line a little bit with their, because I get it. Some people, when they see a tragedy going on in the building, they get very nervous and they want to call you right away and say, oh my God, I want to let you know. But it's your job as an owner to set some kind of boundary with them. And that's okay. Don't worry about them calling 311 if you do that. You have to, it's like a dance, you have to know. And every tenant is different. The one tenant, you can't be too aggressive. They're more sensitive. Another tenant, I say they're like tenants are like crayons. They're all different colors. So you have to be different with each one. It's like driving a car. Once you know, you know. You feel it, you feel it. So it's hard to explain, but you definitely don't want to be too heartfelt with them. They're not your buddy. They're not your friend. It's a business. It's hard to see when you're there talking to them, but this is a business. So you always have to keep that in mind. When you go to work, you don't talk to your manager like, hey, how was your weekend? You have any beers? Did you go drinking? You have to have that line. And it's hard to see when you're going into the hallway building and, the tenant's there in their house. You kind of want to be like, hey, how you been? But you have to understand that you're doing either a business transaction, picking up rent, or you're conducting some type of business with them. And you have to know that line. What do you think, Phil?
No, it's the truth. And then at the same time, usually if you become buddy-buddy with them, 9 out of 10 times they want to get over on you. Such as if they want to go outside and wash their car and use your hose from the basement, then they start washing, or they feel that it's okay for them to basically take your solvents that you wash your hallways with, or they want to just throw their garbage whichever way they want, or basically they make up their own stories as they go along, because they fish to find out how far they could get over on you.
Yeah, they do test you, and if you're a new owner, you're gonna have to fake it till you make it, because I've seen stories online where owners are being totally taken advantage of by these tenants because they know either they're 90 years old and they're older, or they don't have a whole lot of experience. So my story is, I had a tenant right now that just left, and I stood firm. She was always saying, I'm going to call 311, I'm going to call HPD. She would text me and I wouldn't respond. I told myself, she had no lease, her lease expired, and she was just freeloading. And I told myself, if I go there and fix whatever she needs to be fixed with no lease, then that puts me in a situation where I'm completely under her control. So I made the understanding that I will just deal with it through HPD. And the funny part is that she decided, after 2 days of telling me she's gonna call, she decided to actually take my money and leave, which wasn't a lot of money. And we'll talk about how you can pay them to leave.
Yeah, you could have your attorney write up a surrenders agreement and basically just call it a day. Sometimes what happens is it's easier to just give them some money so they could walk away. And this is one of the forms that we would have the attorney write up, so this way they're in agreement with it. Hopefully they take the money, and then afterwards they're good to go. No harm, no foul. What happens is maybe there's a situation where they cornered themselves somehow, and now they're stuck because they have no money to leave, and they have no money to pay you. So now all of a sudden they're becoming squatters. So sometimes, as a landlord, you have to make the decision to bite the bullet, give them some money, so this way at least, they're able to, basically get above water. Nothing substantial, something where, it's understanding between the both of you. And be firm about it, because sometimes, like, they want to get over on it as much as they can, to just leave. And like, basically, as a landlord, I don't feel that that's just. When you're losing rent money, you're going to be spending money just to fix the apartment, to get a contractor to do whatever it is that needs to be done, to clear up the apartment, and you have to pay out the tenant, just so this way, like, you could get rid of a headache. With that said, that's something that's for another day, where we could go more into it.
Yeah. So, I just want to show you guys how to rent the apartment. So, protocol of renting, which is the hardest thing and is the most important thing. When you're renting an apartment, you have to understand that signature that you do, that lease that you give them, that's serious business. Once this person comes in and you give them the keys, good luck getting them out. So understand that there's not a time limit when it's time to rent. Understand that it takes time to find the right person. Don't be pushed by realtors that tell you, take this, what's your problem? Why are you being picky? You have to be 100. Like, this person has to come into your door and has to, like, wow you, for you to kind of know that, okay, that's the one. If you have any kind of uncertainty about the person, you should just go home, tell the realtor, because a lot of realtors will come with the money ready and the lease ready and they're ready to sign. Go home, tell them you're going to think about it, and come back the next day. Because, like I said, you make that wrong decision. I have with tenants that are nuisance. In 1 year, I'll have a stack of paperwork, court papers, you name it, headaches of that nuisance. That you make that mistake, maybe you feel bad, maybe they come up with a story, because potential tenants will come up with stories and lie. So you have to do your due diligence in checking W-2 forms, checking credit score. And what I like to do is, like, realtors like to go and take the keys and go to the apartment without me. I'm not a big fan of that, because I want to see how they act while they're looking at the apartment. So what I like to do is I like to walk with them. I tell the realtor, all right, hold on, let me just deal with the tenants right now. I like to walk with them around the apartment, look around with them, and see how they act, see how they react, kind of get a feel of who they are in that short span of time. When they're done looking, if they say they're interested, ask them some questions. Even if they say they're not interested, because they might call you later on.
Ask a lot of questions. That's right.
The first kind of, what's the first kind of questions that you would ask them?
Well, I would say is to, like, are you married, or what's your basically your background? What's your purpose of moving over here, or why are you leaving? Why did you leave your other residency, or why are you planning on leaving where you're coming from? What are the benefits of you moving into this neighborhood as opposed to the neighborhood you came from? Do you feel that, like, if, say, for example, you're going to be here, how long do you feel that you're going to stay here? Is it long term, or is it going to be maybe 1 year, 2 year situation? Without asking questions, you don't know, and most tenants would just, tell you whatever. What I like to do normally is, when I see people coming in, I usually want husband and wife to be together. If it's not husband and wife, I want them to be up front to tell me that it's going to be them and maybe a roommate. Or if, say, for example, they're going to be coming in with their brother or their sister, or however it is that they want to rent the apartment, it's best to be set up front, because there's plenty of time that they'll say that they're husband and wife, and then afterwards she'll be in the apartment and he's never around. And then you kind of get the figure that the only reason why they said that is because she wanted to rent the apartment, because maybe she felt isolated by, other landlords not feeling comfortable to rent to a single person, regardless if it's a guy or girl. Providing that, that person, can pay the rent, because, if you put too much onus on yourself thinking that you can, then basically you're giving yourself a bad profile of yourself.
And another thing also, like, I got really comfortable with my realtor. I worked on him many times, and he's rented a lot of apartments. And what happened was that he got too comfortable with me. He started learning my ways, and he started knowing the angles he could do with me to rent the apartment. So I'll give you an example. So the last 2 tenants he rented to, the first one was a girl who didn't speak any English, and he coordinated, I know he did, because we have many years experience, that he coordinated, he put her together with a guy that was probably his friend that worked at FedEx. And the guy made a ton of money, like 80,000, and it was just them two, him and supposedly his wife. Now, I don't ask for wedding papers, so you kind of have to have a gut feeling. So she didn't say a word, and I was my mistake to not be able to talk to her, but she didn't speak English. So, okay, so I rented them the apartment because he was great, the guy that worked at FedEx. After I was done with the apartment, they took over, and I started noticing she was by herself. She told me, don't use his last name anymore. The last name on the mailbox was totally different from what the one I rented it to. And she had two kids. And she didn't speak any English. The daughter was there and another little boy. Totally 180 from what I saw, what was portrayed to me. And then the last one, which is even crazier, she came in, the girl came in with a guy. He worked as security. He made money, she made money. Then he moves out. Then when they moved in, I had to fix some plumbing stuff. And I see another guy there. Later to find out that the guy was actually dating the girl, because the tenant admitted to me. The guy was dating the girl. The other guy wasn't married to her, the guy that the realtor brought in. They were not a couple at all. The realtor was using the guy at the front. And the guy that actually snuck in, that was the boyfriend, was a drug dealer. And he was like, put cameras up. He was going out all night. I can't say it was, but if you're leaving at 1 in the morning, coming back, 2 in the morning, coming back, 3 in the morning, locks everywhere. When I came into the apartment, there was locks on his bedroom, locks everywhere. So, our gut feeling is pretty good. So I'm going to say my gut feeling was he was selling drugs. I finally got them out, but I will no longer use that realtor because he had lost my trust. So You have to understand that realtors, even if you know them, they're buddy-buddy, sometimes they have an expiration date.
Right. Also, going off on that, that was a perfect example. But, it doesn't proceed to say, about discriminating people because, unfortunately, you shouldn't discriminate overall. But going back, you should use your gut feeling because, it is a point where, you feel that you're presented with, a couple moving in and basically, they want to procure this future together and what have you. And then all of a sudden, like he said, after a few months, there was a complete 180 degrees turnaround and, now all of a sudden, you as a landlord, it puts you into a big duress problem because now you have to hire an attorney. Now you have to be your own private detective because you got to get cameras, a whole bunch of expenses that's laid out to you, and you're not collecting any rent to help you out.
And that's after you hand over those keys. So handing over those keys are the most important thing you could ever do. Don't let anybody push you into handing those keys quicker. Do your due diligence. Take your time. I'd rather wait 2 months to rent the right person than to rent right away in 2 days and then deal with paperwork and drama and all that bad stuff. It gets really bad. A tenant can do a lot of bad things to you. They can bring in roaches. They can complain about roaches, violations.
Yeah, and it causes other tenants in the building a lot of problems too because they have to deal with that person
exactly.
as well.
And, like the last tenant I had that I paid off, partying in the hallway. Tenants can't sleep. Now, if that goes on for a long period of time, you're going to lose the good tenants in the building. So that one cancer is going to make the whole building leave. Just because you handed over those keys in a rush fashion. But,
Yeah, because if the other people in the building can't go to work in the morning and live their lifestyle, it's not fair to them because they're doing the correct thing, paying you your rent and basically upkeeping their house and everything, their apartment, and all of a sudden, they can't go to work because, they're tired or what have you, or they might even cause, depending on the type of job that they have, who knows, they could probably be a cop and they need their sleep because, they have, a lot of, stress at jobs. It causes a lot of problems.
Don't forget, to have a writer. They have writers online at your local city website. A writer is super important. What a writer does is that a writer explains this is my writer, so I'm not going to show the name, but it's like 3 or 4 pages, and it explains there's a late fee after the 10th of the month. You're not allowed to put a washing machine. Don't put up any electrical wiring. Don't take down any new walls. Don't leave stuff in the basement. Don't add your own refrigerator without asking. No subletting. No major renovations allowed in the apartment without approval of a landlord. How to recycle, return checks. There's a late fee on those. Security, what happens to their security deposit. just it covers you, So if you have them to sign this in the beginning, then you kind of have a little safety net for you in case they do something. You can say, hey, if they get bad, hey, they signed this, they agreed on stuff. So check your local city's website for their rider and make sure a new tenant signs a lease and signs the rider. That's super important.
Okay.
So
ways for a landlord in order to upgrade and basically save some money on their buildings. Going away from the tenancy on end of it, that's going to be a story for a later show.
Yeah.
But we wanted to also talk about some topics as far as the landlord upkeeping their building, making it more proficient for them. There are ways of, basically a lot of free outlets out there where they're able to utilize it as far as LED lighting, basically new solar panels that they're giving out to everybody for free. There's a lot of different ways that if, say, for example, you want to, save some money, sometimes it's best that, you invest a little bit on something in order to save on the long run.
Yeah, you don't have to be making money. Saving money is making money. They also have shower heads that you can change that shoots out less water, because where we live, the tenant has to pay we pay the water and we pay the gas. So the water can be crazy if a tenant doesn't treat it right. So,
Yeah, because hot water could be costly. Going off from that topic, we have like a lot of different situations, such as violations that we could deal with in regards to 6 family and above. That's another topic for later.
We could talk about the violations.
Yeah.
So violations. Basically a violation. I have it here, paper. So basically a violation is they send you a paper in the mail saying, let's say with this one here, the tenant was being a nuisance, so she purposely called 311 is the number for our violations, and they said they had a whole bunch of mice, a whole bunch of roaches. So, I had to go and deal with it. So basically what happens with violations is, they have classes, class A, B, and C, C's being the worst. And you have to try to get a exterminator if it's roaches and bugs to go fix that. Yeah. I personally didn't want to go into the apartment. Well, you have to get a professional, because you have to get a receipt from the professional, and then you have to send the receipt into our HPD, which is a place that controls the violations, and you have to have them approve it on a form. But you have to be careful, because there's different forms for different violations. Like a self-closing door is on one form, mice and roaches are on another form. Once they see everything looks good, the bill says, taken care of, they clear it out. But the problem is that the tenant likes to call and then not let them in. So I had to go to like 2 or 3 different exterminators, because I was feeling bad for the people I was using. So she wasn't letting anybody in. She was playing a lot of games. Here in New York City, HPD, which we handle, doesn't care about her games. If it's a class C, you as a landlord have to handle it. So it could be a lot of pressure, because it's a game. HPD's breathing down your neck because they gave it an expiration time. They can handle this like 30 days. Sometimes it's only 15 days if it's a class C. Now you can't get in because she's playing around, he or she, the tenant, and the tenant's just loving that, you're getting your feathers ruffled, And unfortunately, you have to talk to your city's HPD or whatever they're called, and you have to explain to them the situation. And you can postpone it like I did. You could postpone it if it's possible. Class C's might be tough, but you could postpone the appointment to after the person leaves. You could do postponements and hold it like I did. I held off until the tenant left, and then I cleared the violation. So,
HPD officials, they'll be able to work with you as well. You just got to bring up the attention as to what seems to be the problem. It's not that they don't understand or not aware of, like a lot of these mischievous tenants as well, because you got a lot of squatters that play these games. They know that these games go on as well, because, sometimes being a landlord, like Joe was bringing up, you call a certain exterminator 3 or 4 times. Now you're paying that guy 3 or 4 times just to come to do his job, and he's not let in. The best he could do is just basically give you a a letter with his letterhead in regards to the fact that he approached, like this apartment at such time on this such date, and the tenant refused, access. You show that to HPD, they understand that maybe they could give you another date or what have you, or maybe sometimes depending on the circumstances of the situation, they could probably reach out, and see what's going on with the tenant, why they're not letting access. Most of the times, they don't want to get themselves involved. So what happens is that as you go to court, you're bringing that in front of the arbitrator, and the arbitrator is basically going to, give the mandatory to the tenant in order to give access to the landlord, whatever restrictions, that the tenant brought up, to be fixed. And
just understand that open violations are not going to condemn your building. They're not going to take away your building. I mean, you could have 30 open violations and it's fine. Just understand that. But there are companies that are out there that you can actually call that are the middle person that can actually, you pay them and they actually help clear your violation. They have ways of doing it. So look into that, find out the middle person that you pay, because honestly, our New York City HPD, sometimes they they put us in a circle. Sometimes they don't know. They don't really care. They're about getting it solved. So they're not gonna cry with you, So you have to definitely do your homework and don't stress about it. Don't fear the tenant. Don't fear HPD. Don't fear the violation. Just know that your building is not going to be lost because you have a lot of open violations, because a bad tenant will open a million violations. And remember, if you have a bad tenant, do the right protocol. Don't go in there and change their locks while they're away. Know your line, because the more you irritate them, it's like a mosquito bite. The more you scratch it, the bigger it's gonna get. So you can't irritate the tenant. With our nuisance tenants, we always keep a professional way. We don't let our emotions get the best of us and take control. You have to know your line no matter what, because the more you cross that line, the more your violation page is gonna grow. So, I got to a point with one tenant that actually sent them an apology video. And I just wanted to squash any beef that we had. And I sent them an apology video saying I was out of line. So right there, that could save you a few phone calls to 311 for violations. So just know that it doesn't take beating down their door or whatever you do. I've heard crazy stories of what landlord does to their apartment, while they're out or whatever, or putting a banner in front of the building saying, I have a deadbeat tenant in my building. You don't want to do none of that, right, Phil?
yeah, it causes too much attention to the property. Then other people in the area, they're probably thinking that maybe you might be foreclosing, or maybe give different ideas, because one little aspect is misinterpreted to other people. Then afterwards it becomes like another story. You don't want to do that, and that's basically something that
You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, you shoot yourself in the foot, because you shouldn't do too many things. Just do your due diligence. Go the right way.
Get a lawyer.
Stay firm. Get a lawyer and push forward. Just don't get yourself. Sometimes our emotions do get the best of us, and that's when you lose.
And your pride too. With my tenant, I paid her $6,000 to leave. My next court date, I just had one now. My next court date from July 27th was going to be October 27th. So at $2,000 a month, that's already 3 months you lost. That's $6,000 anyway that you're going to burn. So forget your pride. If you can remove the nuisance, let the person win. In this kind of business, it's like a casino. You're going into a casino knowing that there's going to be money lost. You can't always keep it in a protocol where, no, I don't want to lose this. You're going to burn money here in this business. So you got to be ready for that, and you got to understand that that's part of the business. We're desensitized. We know that, here's another, thing that we didn't do the coding for in the building. So we have to pay the fine. Or there's another, now they want to pass a law that there's going to be sprinkler systems in the hallways. We got to do our due diligence. We got to pay for the sprinkler system. It all ends up to be safety in the long run. So, you got to understand that it's almost like a casino. You're going in with the idea of knowing that money will be lost. It's not your fault. It's just the nature of this business.
Yeah, it's like in any business that you open, regardless of what type of business you open. There are certain percentages of money you're going to be making, certain percentages of money that you're going to be using towards maintenance and overhead. And then, you always have to factor in the 10, 15% of money lost due to people stealing from you or what have you. In any business, like that's what it is. It's basically just a common sense of today's nature.
And if you're not ready to like bounce back from all that stuff, then you shouldn't be in that kind of business. You gotta then go get a job 9 to 5. With any kind of entrepreneur business, there's always crazy money's lost. I had a contractor that he went to go dump a certain material at the dump yard, and he got fined $25,000 because he dumped the wrong material, and they caught him doing that, and it was a big fine. Sorry about that. But understand that you got to move forward. You got to be able to rise again.
Bite the bullet sometimes. Is really not much you could do about it. You just have to pass it off as
tax expense.
No, not a tax expense. What's that? Donation. You have to pass it off as a donation.
That's another thing. You could do donations. You could do your company into a corporate. Depends on the route you want to do. Corporate is good. You protect your property for anything that happens. But that's for another episode. Just know that with losing money, it doesn't happen every day. And in this type of business, there's a lot of flexibility. We're not slaving, getting up at 6 a.m, going on a train or a bus and going to work. We have our freedom. So you have to see the balance. Like you have your freedom in this kind of business. It never goes sour. No matter if COVID hits or whatever, the business will always flourish because people need a place to stay. So you have to put perspectives into things. Now maybe you become a new landlord and 5 things happen in a row. That's why we made this 5 bad things happen in a row. That's why we made this video to show you 30 years, those bad things, maybe for you it happened in a row, but brighter days are coming for you. Don't stress it out because that's how people end up leaving and selling the property when there's no need to. You just got to muscle through it,
Yeah, and I can't express enough how you should be basically available to pass by the house at least once or twice a day in order to see what's going on.
Yeah.
A little bit in the morning, maybe in the afternoon, or if you're going to do like late morning, in the evening before you come home, from work. It's always a must to pass by to do a protocol check. Meaning, like there could be,
light
garbage,
fixtures out,
the
debris on the sidewalk, which can get you a ticket.
Right, or shoveling of the snow. It has to be, done right away. Someone maybe must have broken a lock, or maybe
there's always something. Yeah.
Or maybe you didn't even know there's a flood in the basement, and without checking, how long was that flood there?
Yeah, we go like, if you can go daily, that'd be amazing, even for 5 minutes. But 3 times a week, ideal is to go check on everything. Depends on the building. If it's a smaller building, maybe you can get away with once a week. But if it's like a 20 family, then you have to go pretty often because there's a lot of people doing a lot of things in there. So things get broken, bikes get left in the hallway, people get unhappy. So you have to do your due diligence, pass by the property, make sure everything looks good. It's a quick in and out, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So I think we're good. So thank you guys for this episode, for watching us. I hope you stay and subscribe and like our page and watch other episodes. We're going to get better. We're going to talk about a lot more good things. We're going to have some guests to come in from different aspects of the landlord world or the real estate world.